They say the curse of Pharaoh Nebra ended when the museum guard, Omar, vanished without a trace. A neat, tidy story to calm the public and keep the ticket sales rolling. But some stories, the darkest ones, don't have an ending. Evil doesn't just disappear. It hides. It waits for someone new. And 2 weeks after the museum swept Omar's memory under the rug, she arrived. Her name was Nadia. A brilliant young archaeologist, sharper than a surgeon's scalpel, with a passion for the old kingdom that bordered on obsession. She was here to study the very same artifacts Omar was assigned to protect the Nebra collection. Her colleagues warned her, their voices hushed with a mixture of fear and local superstition. "Don't go into the Hall of Kings after dark," they'd say. "There's a bad feeling in there." Nadia just smiled, her logic a shield against their ghost stories. Standing at the grand entrance to the hall, she whispered to herself, if curses were real, every museum in the world would be an empty tomb. The words felt brave on her tongue, but they around her seemed to disagree. It grew thick, heavy, pressing in on her from all sides. The silence of the hall wasn't empty, it was listening. And then she heard it. A faint, ethereal whisper, like wind whistling through a cracked tomb. It was the same sound the security guards had reported hearing just before Omar disappeared. A sound like ancient chanting. A language dead for 3,000 years, ignoring the chill that ran down her spine. Nadia pushed forward, her practical mind searching for a rational explanation. A draft. An old ventilation system. The sound seemed to pull her deeper into the hall, past the golden canopic jars and the silent, watching eyes of Anubis statues. It led her to a shadowy alcove, tucked away behind a towering statue of Osiris. And there, on the cold marble floor, was a glint of metal. It was Omar's flashlight. She picked it up, her gloved fingers tracing the familiar scratches on its casing. She clicked the switch, half expecting it to be dead. But a bright, powerful beam cut through the gloom. It was still working. As if it had been left here only moments ago. Her heart began to beat a little faster. This wasn't right. The flashlight's beam fell upon something else lying beside it on the floor. A piece of parchment, brittle and yellowed with age, covered in hieroglyphs. Nadia knelt, her archaeologist's curiosity overriding her growing sense of dread. These weren't the neat, formal symbols she was used to seeing on temple walls. They were frantic, jagged, scratched into the papyrus with desperate haste. This wasn't part of any known exhibit. It was a message. A warning. She held the parchment up, her breath catching in her throat as she translated the archaic text. "He who breaks the seal of the eternal watch shall serve forever in its place." A sharp cracking sound sliced through the silence. Nadia spun around, her flashlight beam dancing wildly across the room. It landed on the massive, hermetically sealed glass case that housed the sarcophagus of Nebra. A single, hairline fracture had appeared, zigzagging across the reinforced glass like a bolt of lightning. The air vibrated, a low hum that she could feel in her bones. And then came a deep, echoing thud from within the case. A sound of stone grinding against stone. Her scientific mind screamed that this was impossible. The case was climate-controlled, sealed against the world. Nothing could get in or out. But her eyes told a different story. Before her, the heavy stone lid of the sarcophagus was sliding open. Slowly, inch by agonizing inch, pushed by some unseen force. Dust, undisturbed for millennia, billowed out like smoke, catching the beam of her flashlight in a swirling vortex. The lid stopped, revealing the dark abyss within. Nadia expected to see the linen-wrapped form of a mummy, the serene, gilded mask of the pharaoh. But there was nothing. The sarcophagus was empty. No, not empty. It was filled with sand. Fine, golden desert sand. And in the sand, there were footprints. Fresh footprints, leading out of the sarcophagus and onto the museum floor. A cold terror, unlike anything she had ever known, seized her. Every rational thought evaporated, replaced by a primal instinct to run. But she was frozen to the spot. A voice, soft and calm, spoke from the shadows right behind her. A familiar voice. You shouldn't be here. Nadia turned, her heart hammering against her ribs. And she saw him. It was Omar. His guard uniform was tattered and caked in ancient dust, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes hollowed out pits of shadow. A wave of relief, so powerful it almost buckled her knees, washed over her. Omar. She gasped. You're alive. Everyone thought no. He interrupted, his voice trembling, broken. Not anymore. He took a shuffling step toward her, and the walls of the hall began to tremble again. It wasn't an earthquake. It was something else. Every stone statue in the hall, from the smallest shabti to the colossal figures of the gods, slowly turned their heads. Their impassive, carved faces all rotated to stare directly at her. Gold dust began to rain down from the ceiling, shimmering in the flashlight beam like toxic ash. Nadia watched in horror as Omar's body began to change. His skin cracked and flaked away, crumbling like dry clay to reveal desiccated, linen bandages wrapped tightly beneath. He was being unmade, his form dissolving into the dust of ages. The whispers that had haunted the hall grew louder, swelling into a deafening, guttural roar that seemed to emanate from the very stones around them, and from the deepest shadows behind Omar. A new shape began to coalesce, a tall, spectral figure, crowned with ethereal light and radiating an aura of immense ancient power. Nebra's spirit was rising. The pharaoh's voice echoed through the hall, not with sound, but as a thought implanted directly into her mind, a voice of sand and stone and forgotten eons. Another guardian for eternity. Omar reached a crumbling, bandaged hand toward her, his empty eyes filled with an eternity of sorrow. Nadia finally found her voice and screamed, a raw, piercing sound that was abruptly cut short as every light in the Hall of Kings exploded in a shower of sparks. And then, there was only darkness. The next morning, the new Egyptian museum opened its doors to the public as usual. The sun streamed through the high windows, illuminating the pristine, silent halls. No one mentioned the promising young archaeologist who had failed to check out the previous night. Her disappearance was just another administrative anomaly, a mystery to be filed away. In the Hall of Kings, a new security guard took up his post, a young man eager to impress, who kept glancing nervously into the shadows. He had the strange feeling he wasn't alone. And he was right. Because in the dark alcove behind the statue of Osiris, two silent figures now stood guard instead of one. The curse hadn't ended. It had just found a new keeper.